The Todoroki family has been shown to produce some of the most powerful characters in My Hero Academia, all thanks to Endeavor and his insane genetics as well as his quirk marriage. That said, I figured it would probably be really fun to watch Izuku live life on recruit difficulty and be born with a powerful quirk instead of a quirkless loser. That said though, if you guys go on to enjoy today's video, then slap a like on this video seeing as it only takes 1 second, and if you don't, I will push your grandma down the stairs. That said, enjoy. We jump straight into the story on the day that Izuku Todoroki is born alongside his brother, Shoto Todoroki. Now in this story, they're actually going to be twins, and there's a very specific reason for that. There's a little dynamic that I want to go with for this specific story, and I'm not really sure if this video is going to get a part 2. It's only determined really on how you guys receive the video. So if you guys love this story, then go down below in the comments, report your attendance as I'm going to be taking that, and leave a like on the video since it's the best way to let me know. But without me wasting more of your guys' time, let's get started. When Izuku Todoroki grows up, his life is going to be a little bit different because this time around he is going to activate a quirk. However, this time around it's going to be kind of bittersweet because the day that he activates his quirk, he would actually end up activating a fire quirk. Now, why is that the case? Like, Izuku isn't sure, but his flames are white and for some reason they don't burn anything. Izuku was so confused by that. He literally activated a quirk and it activated by accident where he ended up shooting flames at a kid, but it didn't burn him. So they took him to a quirk doctor and Izuku ended up being told that he has a flame quirk, but it's interesting, it's mutated, it's never been seen before. His flames don't burn, or at least they don't yet. And Izuku would wonder why in the world that's the case. But Endeavor would pretty much just say that he's a failed child, and so he would put all of his hopes into Todoroki. This, however, would end up being a choice that would perfectly go according to Endeavor's plans, and with this, Todoroki would actually end up awakening as half hot, half cold quirk that we get in the original. Because of this, Todoroki would then immediately start getting trained to become a pro hero, and Izuku would always want his father to train him. Izuku knows that his father isn't exactly the nicest person in the world, but he loves his father either way and he admires him for being a hero. He had always thought the day he activated a quirk he would be trained, but when it happened he was shunned aside for Todoroki. And his whole childhood he would wonder why he was always looked down upon by his father, why he always stood in Todoroki's shadow. Izuku would have no choice but to train on his own, and the benefits that he would get from that would be so minimal it would be borderline unbelievable. But Todoroki would grow stronger day by day and Izuku could just feel himself being weak. He knows that he's not going to become a pro hero at this rate and he's just not sure what to do. I mean, what can he do, right? So as Todoroki would grow up training alongside Endeavor, hating every second of it and resenting his father, Izuku would watch all this from the side and hate Todoroki for that. Todoroki gets to live the life that Izuku wants, and Todoroki isn't even grateful for it. He gets to be trained by the #2 hero in the world. He should be thanking Endeavor, groveling at his feet, Izuku would think. He's unsure why he hates it. Sure, he's treated like a soldier, but at least he gets to talk to his father. And that's all Izuku wanted. He wanted the recognition of his dad. Eventually his mom was taken to a psychiatric ward where she was stated in for being crazy or something, and Izuku lost everything. Now all he had was his siblings, and they sort of didn't really have any cool common ground with Izuku. They thought that he was weird. Why does he still like Endeavor? Izuku also wasn't too aware of the Toya situation, so he was never really told why they all hate him as much as they do. And because of this, eventually years would pass until eventually both of them would be about 12 years old. It would be on this particular day that Izuku would get home from school and he would have found something out. He can now finally increase the heat of his flames, and now they can actually burn things. And now Izuku was getting extremely happy because of that, because his flames were actually doing something. They're not just useless anymore. Sure, it might take a while to burn things, but Izuku could keep working on it. Meanwhile, Todoroki was over there refusing to use his flames and only using his ice, spiting Endeavor every single chance that he could get, and Izuku was getting tired of it. One day, Todoroki would actually have ended up walking by Izuku, and he would end up saying what's up to him, hi, but Izuku would just ignore him, and it'd be in this moment that Todoroki would grab Deku by his arm and say, "Hey, what's the matter? Why don't you talk to me?" And Izuku would look at him with hatred in his eyes, saying, "Why don't I talk to you? Maybe it's because you're living the life that I deserve. You have everything. You were able to train with our father. You have the perfect quirk. Meanwhile, I got stuck with this crappy quirk. I have to train by myself and Endeavor won't even look at me. You mean to tell me you don't like me because I get to train with that monster? Shut up, Izuku would say. You don't get to talk about him like that. The only reason you think he's a monster is because you're a weakling who can't handle the training. You're soft, Todoroki. If I had your chance, if I had your opportunity, I would revel in it. I would grow so unbelievably powerful, and I would take everything Endeavor takes me to heart. You, on the other hand, you're scum, Todoroki. You're nothing but a pathetic weakling, and I promise that someday I'll make sure that my quirk is powerful enough to defeat even you, Mr. Perfect. As he walks off, and Todoroki would just be sitting there looking at the back of Izuku as he can just feel like Endeavor energy like emanating off of Izuku. It would be at this point that we were going to be getting a 2-year time skip in which during this time Izuku would have done a lot of training, and I mean a lot of training. Izuku would have gotten so unbelievably powerful, not because he like trained like all hard. He was sort of harnessing his inner Sasuke, like using the power of hatred and like, I need to be better than my brother to get stronger every day. He like hated the feeling of being in his brother's shadow and everything he did being overlooked by his brother. His brother has straight A's. Izuku was in very smart in school in this timeline. He had to work for it. He had to work for his quirk. He's not as tall as his brother. Heck, he's not even as good looking as him. So Izuku has to work for everything that he has, and he's tired of it. Not one thing has gone according to plan. Izuku has had to work as hard as Mirio had to get his quirk to even the point where it's at this moment, you know? And Izuku takes a lot of pride in that. So eventually we would find ourselves on the day of the UA sports festival, on the UA entrance exam, and it would be on this particular day that Izuku would have been told that he could just get in by recommendations. Psych, no he wouldn't, because his father doesn't care about him. So Izuku's not going to be going in through recommendations. I'm literally so dumb. He's going to actually be having to take the test like a normal person. And Todoroki, like even when they were getting close to this day, Todoroki would tell Izuku that if he wants, he could like put him in for recommendation, tell Endeavor something. But Izuku's like, nah, I don't need handouts from you. As like he would make his way towards the UA entrance exam area, and it would be there that Izuku would pass the test, getting a better score than Todoroki would for the written exam, since obviously they have to take it too. And then when it comes to the physical portion of the exam, the robot portion, Izuku would absolutely obliterate those robots as if they were Todoroki himself. He was going ham. Using his flame quirk, using the white flames, he would grab onto the poles that were there and slingshot himself toward where all the robots are at. Immediately upon landing, Izuku would like spin in the air, and with flames he would slam them on the ground, literally scorching everything. Like, I don't know, I know that most of us, since we watch anime, like fire does nothing. Like, especially in Naruto, like if you get hit with a fire attack, you kind of just get like a little scratch on you, right? It's almost like scraping your knee. That's what fire does in anime. But this, let me paint the scene for you. Have you guys ever seen Suicide Squad? That scene where like that one guy with the fire abilities like goes crazy in the yard and like everyone just gets turned into bones? Yeah, that's what happens. Izuku lands and like even the building surrounding him would literally get scorched from how hot it is. And it would be absolutely insane. Even the people watching this would be like, what the heck? Endeavor, who would be watching as well, would be like, what is happening? Like, when did he get that strong? But it'd be in this moment that Izuku would create like flame wings and literally begin flying toward the next robot, as he would literally get there, create a fire fist, like a flaming fall of like fists, and just like crush that robot, leaving nothing but a scorch mark on the ground. Like it might as well have been hit by lava, bro. Like it's absolutely insane how hot Izuku's flames are. And he would just go in there and destroy. That was the only thing that was on Izuku's mind. He would go in there and get robot point after robot point, and eventually a rumbling would be heard as Izuku would stare up at the 0 pointer, and he would notice that there was a girl like about to be crushed. Izuku in this moment was about to like destroy this like robot, just like to like finally put that nail in the coffin and show his father, since he had never shown him how strong he really was. Like, I'm stronger than Todoroki, right? Like this was the day he was gonna unveil all of his hard work. He would create gigantic wings and fly off as he would go charging in at the robot, and he would have like a sort of kaiju like aura of flames like surrounding his body, almost like a Susanoo, going in to destroy it and like creating massive damage. But it would be in this moment that Izuku would hear a scream for help, and it would be almost as if Izuku just couldn't bring himself to ignore her. For some reason, instead of taking the opportunity to show up Todoroki and like show just how powerful he was, Izuku literally couldn't hold on to the transformation because like he knew in the back of his head, if he does this, she's gonna get badly hurt. So Izuku would like literally mid-air evade the Zero Pointer's punch because it would try to like hit him, and then Izuku would fly towards the direction of Uraraka. As he would shoot like flames at Uraraka, she would cover herself thinking she's about to get burned, but it wouldn't burn her, and she would be grabbed, brought to safety, and taken to Recovery Girl, as the exam would actually end up ending right there, and Izuku would look at the Zero Pointer thinking to himself, I'll get it next time. As Uraraka would thank him, and Izuku like in a monotone voice would just be like, yeah, whatever, as he walks off, and he would make his way towards the Todoroki household, where once he would end up arriving there, Endeavor would actually end up going over to Izuku, and he would end up asking him when in the world he got that strong, as Izuku would look at him and say, no thanks to you, you good for nothing deadbeat, as he would go to his room and slam the door. And Endeavor would be like, I'm talking to you, as he would break open the door. But Izuku would literally just create another one out of flames, and Endeavor would be standing outside of the door, just like, I'll talk to that rebellious kid later, now I have two on my hands. And Izuku in this moment would have his headphones in, like listening to like some rock music or something like that, just some like average anime scene, right, where he's like trying to be alone. And eventually we would get a time skip to the first day of the UA schooling system, where Izuku would wake up and he would end up getting in on the train as he would make his way to school. Once he would arrive, he would end up being greeted to the side of a blue-haired boy and a blonde-haired boy, obviously Ida and Bakugo. They're both arguing back and forth, just going at it for literally no reason at all. And Izuku just ignores them, goes to the back of the class, puts his headphones in, and would like be in his own like zone. And you'll be left in the dust, like just like imagine how like Miles Morales would do it. You're the sunflower, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what Izuku would do. He would just be zoned out in his own world until suddenly Aizawa would end up saying, kid, put those away, until eventually he pays attention. They go outside, they take the quirk apprehension test, and there it would be Izuku's mission. Like bro would be on a straight up mission to beat Todoroki, make sure that Todoroki doesn't stand a single chance. And while Todoroki would be trying pretty hard, Izuku would be try-harding. Like he would be going extremely hard on every single thing that he could do. Anything that could give him even the slightest advantage over Todoroki, he would take. And Todoroki would notice this, as eventually Izuku would end up being in first place, beating Momo by actually a landslide, and Todoroki by even a larger landslide. And because of this, there's also one more change that comes out of this. Number one, Bakugo isn't over there like trying to bully like alpha male Deku in this moment. He's not like, Deku, how'd you get your quirk, or nothing like that. And Deku just is like at the first place. Aizawa tells everybody they're free to go home, and Todoroki goes over to him like trying to congratulate him, but Izuku's not having any of it. He looks at Todoroki with a cocky smile and says, guess you're not as perfect as dad thinks, as he would walk off, make his way home, and eventually the next day of school would come around, where this time around Shoto would be like, dude, all I've tried to do is like talk to you, but you hate me for no reason. Like, it's not my fault that I was born with this quirk. It's not my fault that dad like freaking chose to absolutely go crazy training me and not you. Like, I didn't do that. You want to talk to somebody or be mad at someone? Be mad at my father. And it would be in this moment that Todoroki would realize, like, Endeavor, like, now he hates him even more than he would in the original, because now his own brother literally hates him. His twin hates him because of his father. Now he doesn't have his mother because of his father. He didn't have a childhood because of his father. He was brutally beaten every day and trained to the bone every single day because of his father. He lost basically all of his childhood because of his father, Endeavor. And it would be kicking in this moment, and Todoroki would be having none of it. He is not having a good day at all, and it shows. After this, we eventually get a scene of Izuku making his way home, but once he gets home, Endeavor tries to talk to him, and I could definitely see something like this happening, where Izuku, because he was doing this, he just wasn't having it. He wasn't trying to talk to Endeavor, and he just walked right past him, as Endeavor would look at him being like, hey, talk to me when I'm talking, like don't ignore me when I'm talking to you. But Izuku would give him like this death stare, and flames would like go off of him, like white flames would just begin bursting off of him as he says, let me go, old man. And it'd be in this moment that Endeavor would like fire up his own flame, saying, what you gonna do about it? But in this moment, Izuku would calm his flames down, saying, nothing yet, as he would walk off and make his way towards like a music store, because let's say Izuku really likes music. That's like the whole theme of the story so far. Once he makes his way there, he would end up bumping into a girl named Jiro. And no, this isn't gonna be a ship, for all of you guys wondering if I'm gonna do some stuff like that. No, it's just gonna be a friend, okay? An actual friend. Izuku's allowed to have those, okay? He bumps into her and he sees like, oh, like she likes music too, like that's crazy. So they actually end up talking. They're like, yo, you were in UA? She's like, yeah, like I'm in UA. Izuku has a nice conversation with her. Like she like her and him are talking, and mind you, they don't like feel any attraction towards one another because they're not each other's types. But Izuku eventually, after everything, would end up asking Jiro if she plays anything, and him and her would literally begin jamming out. She'd be on the guitar and Izuku would be on the drums, and like Jiro would be singing and Izuku would be vibing like, yo, we gotta record something sometime, you know? So Jiro's like, oh, I'm down, you know? And eventually after this, we would have the next day at UA, where Jiro is sort of going to be replacing Uraraka's role here, where instead of Uraraka being like, oh, Izuku, because like Izuku's more closed off, they don't have any like common interests, Jiro is going to be filling in that role, except her personality makes it a little different because of that, you know what I mean? With that, what's going to basically end up happening is the class would resume, right? The very next day, they would have normal studies until finally it would be like the final period of the day. And it'd be in this moment that All Might would just burst through the door, just like, I am here, as he makes his presence very known. And eventually the class would end up being told about the heroes versus villains event. It would be here that All Might would end up telling everybody to get suited up, because as he's always been told, the clothes make the pros. In this moment, everybody would just begin suiting up and they'd all be having a great old time. And it'd be at this specific moment that Izuku would make his way outside and his hero costume would be put on. And let's just say that Izuku's hero costume is cool, all right? I don't feel like making it up in my head. It's just something simple, something sleek. It looks really cool. Think like Todoroki's a costume that he gets like upgraded, but like cooler, I guess, or something, like, I don't know, but just something cool, all right? And then he sees Todoroki's costume and he just like straight breaks out laughing. He's like, what is that? And like Todoroki looks at him and Todoroki just kind of like glares at him. And then it would be in this moment that both of them would end up basically going to the front of the classroom, where it would be in this moment that Todoroki would actually be told that he's going to be teamed up with Izuku. In this moment, Todoroki and Izuku would like look at each other and be like, teamed up. And I know what you guys were probably thinking. I know most of y'all were probably like, oh, he's gonna make them fight, like, let's go. Nah, y'all gotta wait for that. Y'all gotta wait for part 2, if I even feel like giving it to you guys. Remember, hit the like button or I'm not dropping nothing. Like, that's all I'm saying. I'm literally not gonna drop it. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna straight private the video if it doesn't do good. But yeah, y'all want more? Prove it. Anyways, Izuku and Todoroki would like look at each other and they're like, okay, well, I guess we have to work together, Todoroki would be thinking. But Izuku's like, he's like, I'm not working with him. And it'd be in this moment that like Izuku would straight up go to All Might and be like, can I change my team? And All Might would be like, no. As Izuku just kind of has to deal with it. And his opponent would actually be Bakugo and Ida, right? Because of this, Izuku and Todoroki would actually be the villains. But I think what I want to have happen here, or do I want them to be the villains? Do I want them to be the heroes? Nah. Yeah, they're gonna be the villains. Okay, wait, yeah. So they're at the bomb room and they're both like looking at each other. Right now, they're having like a conversation with each other. Izuku's like giving Todoroki the glare, just like, like, don't talk to me, you know, like, we're working together for now, but this is the only time I'll ever work together with you. And Todoroki's like trying to get to him, like, why do you hate me? Why don't you hate Dad? And he's like, I do hate Dad, but you have the life that I always wanted, Mr. Perfect. You're always good at everything. And Todoroki's like, that's like how is that my fault? You know what I mean? But Izuku's like, it's not. It's not. Some people actually have to work for things. But it'd be in this moment that Bakugo would come busting in through the room and just like doom, 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 shooting explosions. As Todoroki would end up freezing Bakugo, and Izuku, like, seeing that Todoroki reacted faster than he did, because like Izuku was like not caring. He didn't even think that Bakugo was gonna be like that, like aggro at first. He would then like look at Todoroki and say, I could have done that too. And Todoroki's like, I know you could have. But Izuku took that as sarcasm, and so he would unfreeze Bakugo, literally using his flames to unfreeze him, and Bakugo would just be sitting there like dripping in sweat, considering that there was flames. Now Bakugo was like, had his full gauntlets full, and Bakugo held out his hands to like shoot the pin gauntlet explosion. It'd be in this moment that the explosion would go fired off, but Izuku would have straight literally created a dome of fire around himself, not Todoroki, to protect himself from that. And it would be in this moment that the bomb would actually get hit by the explosion, and it would literally like destroy the bomb. Like the paper mache bomb would be done for. Like, it is paper after all. Todoroki blocked himself with some ice, and as that would happen, All Might on the intercoms would go, hero team win, or the villains win, or wait, who would win? Because the bomb blew up. Technically it would blow up, so the villains win, right? Yeah. I think that stands to reason. Yeah, the villain team wins. As this happens, Izuku and Todoroki look at each other. They don't say anything, and then they make their way towards the room where like all the battle would like be like broke down. And it'd be in this moment that All Might would ask the classroom like, yo, who won and why did they win? And Momo would say, well, while the villains technically won, had this been a real situation, they also would have lost, considering that the bomb went off right next to them and they would have died. Judging by the fact that Bakugo didn't handle himself very heroic, if anything, he handled himself like a villain, he didn't get close to winning at all. So both teams really lost. And it'd be in this moment that Izuku would sort of realize that she's absolutely right. Like, had this not been a training exercise, that bomb would have blown up and like a bunch of people would have died. Like, he didn't act very heroic, and he would realize that his grudge against Todoroki definitely got in the way at the moment. As from there, Izuku would kind of like go home and like kicking a can almost, like he was frustrated, you know? But once he would make his way home, he would end up like just kind of like being like, I won't let that happen again. And then eventually what would end up going down is we would get the next arc, which is obviously the USJ arc, where everybody would be told that they're going to be going to the USJ. They're all given permission slips, and Izuku would then be given his thing. He would take it to Endeavor to sign it. But before Endeavor signs it, he would say, I need you to tell me when you got those flame abilities. And Izuku now is kind of forced to tell Endeavor like what happened, how he's been training, because he wants to become better than his brother, and he's going to become better than him, and his good-for-nothing father that treated him like garbage. He's proving them all wrong. Endeavor would hear that and would say, well, I hope you're successful. As from here, he would get the paper sign, and Endeavor would kind of chuckle, saying, looks like one of my kids actually ended up wanting to become powerful. But he would say, but that doesn't mean he will be stronger than Shoto, because he has ice, not just fire, you know? But Endeavor's never realized something. Izuku's flames don't burn him. Have you guys noticed that Izuku has absolutely zero drawbacks from his flames? Y'all remember how I said he could regulate the temperature? Yeah, his flames could literally just not be burning. And the reason that that's the case is because the flames that he emulates, like as he's shooting them off of him, the flames are at like nothing. They're not burning anything. But as they get like a safe distance from him, then they start burning. And that's how like the whole that's how he like conducts himself. Not only that, but Izuku has like a very high like tolerance to the flame, because he's like built it up himself with a little bit of minor scarring, not even like a tenth of as bad as Dabi's, but yeah, like he's just trained himself that hard, and he has that much finesse and control over his flames, you know? So that's why. And there's also going to be something else that Izuku's going to be working on, but I'll tell you that later. Regardless though, we now get into the events of the USJ. And it would be here that Kurogiri and the villains would make their presence known, just like they do in the original, and Izuku would end up getting teleported by Kurogiri to the boat section. Once there, Izuku looking at how there's a bunch of like monsters in the water with him, he would low-key freak out for a second, shooting flames at the monsters. And what Izuku would notice is that his flames are actually working in the water, which is just like shocking him completely. But it would be in this moment that he would be grabbed by Suyu and taken up on the boat, as Izuku would ask if any of their classmates are still in that water, and Tsuyu would say they're not, as it would be in this moment that Izuku shoots a flame so hot into the water that the water begins to boil, like all of it begins to boil, and the villains would like cry out in agony as they're like literally getting like boiled alive. Like they're not gonna die obviously, but like it hurts. And as soon as he sees like they've had enough, Izuku shoots a different flame into the water, which like regulates the temperature back to normal, not cold, but normal. Like he can't make his flames cold, but he made it like so lukewarm that like it kind of like changed the temperature, you get what I mean? And it like overflowed the lake slightly, and now Izuku would create wings as he would fly out of there and make his way towards where the villain is at, thinking to himself that if he can handle this villain threat all by himself, he wonders what his father would think, seeing as he hates his dad, but he still wants his approval and he still wants him to think that he's better than Todoroki. So now Izuku would be face to face with Shigaraki and the Nomu.